All right, welcome back to the channel. So, Floyd Mayweather hints out, well, after being inducted to the Hall of Fame yesterday, shout out to all the greats that got inducted to the Hall of Fame around that era. And Floyd Mayweather basically tells Terence Crawford, you don't need Errol Spence. So, I'm going to break this down to y'all. Let's talk about it in this video. King Jr. got another video for y'all. Please share that you like and subscribe to the channel, and also share the video to get all your latest boxing news. And remember to hit that bell icon to always stay notified as soon as I release the news. So with that being said, guys, shout out to all the great fighters from yesteryear, like a Floyd Mayweather, Shane Mosley, all those guys who fought each other for legacy. And shout out to them, especially Floyd Mayweather. And Floyd Mayweather was crying and stuff like that. You might well go ahead and cry, because Floyd says he says he doesn't care about legacy. Legacy doesn't pay the bills, and that's true. But Floyd, the way he cried, he knew he cared about it. So with that being said, Floyd Mayweather basically hints out and points out that you don't need Terence Crawford, doesn't need Errol Spence Jr. I think that is highly wrong. I think the fact of the matter is that these two guys need to fight because the diehard boxing fans wants to see these guys fight, and it would be a big letdown, just like Lennox Lewis and Riddick Bowe, because those guys have never fought, and we don't know who really was the best heavyweight around that time when both of them was really in their prime and stuff like that. And there are some truth to that. Floyd Mayweather doesn't need, that Terence Crawford doesn't need Errol Spence Jr. And in my opinion on this, Terence Crawford, he doesn't need him in a accolades way, because he already is a 3-division world champion. He got belts at 135, he's undisputed at 140, and he has a belt at 147. And so Terence Crawford fought the guys that they put in front of him, and he stopped them and he knocked them out. And Terence Crawford in that regard doesn't need Errol Spence Jr. And Errol Spence Jr. doesn't need Terence Crawford, because Errol Spence Jr. has already fought on ballot Hall of Famers within Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, arguably make a case for Lamont Peterson. He was going to be Keith Thurman, but Keith Thurman pulled out. And he fought Udane Sugi. He's fought a whole bunch of guys on his resume. And Errol Spence Jr. is doing something just like what's similar to Hagley. He never went to a different weight class. He always stayed at that weight class and fought nothing but the best competition. Now he's unified a belt. So really, Errol Spence doesn't need Terence Crawford in that regard. But I feel like that these guys just need to go ahead and fight for what's good for the sport of boxing. I feel like Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr., either way it goes, if the fight does not happen, which I think it will happen in my opinion, and a lot of people say speculating that the fight's not going to happen, and I feel like that these two are still Hall of Famers, because these are the top tier best at the welterweight division, and these guys are still undefeated and beating the competition that they put in front of them. So that's what I feel like the whole situation. And it's a great thing when you become a Hall of Famer, because that means that everybody is going to remember you for what you did in the ring. And you want to be that type of fighter, that special type of fighter, that put it all on a line. And doesn't matter if you have win, lose, or draw, whatever the case may be, you're still going to be a Hall of Famer. And a lot of people felt like that Canelo Alvarez, is just stacking up the accolades just so he can get into the Hall of Fame the easy way and stuff like that, so people will remember him. But what people don't realize is that when you be in the Hall of Fame, that means that you really fought. You really became a multi-division champion. You really fought the best competition out there, and that's what people want to see Canelo Alvarez. They want to see Canelo Alvarez in the most dangerous fights, and either if he lose or win, Canelo Alvarez will still be looked as a Hall of Famer because of his accomplishment. But really, if you really want the people to stand out and know who your name really is, you want to go ahead and fight the best of the competition. Not saying that Terence Crawford doesn't want that smoke. I think he does want that smoke, but I can't blame Terence Crawford because of the decisions. Well, I can blame him partial of the decisions he made, but a lot of those decisions was involved when he was with Top Rank as well. So I can't blame him on that part, but I have to disagree with Floyd Mayweather. Terence Crawford does need Errol Spence Jr. because the boxing fans at this point is calling for this fight, and this fight has built up so big that these two needs to fight. Even if one guy loses, or Errol Spence Jr. loses, or Terence Crawford loses, or Errol Spence Jr. wins, or Terence Crawford wins, both of these guys are still Hall of Famers because both of these guys took routes where they got them to a certain status where they look at their accolades like, okay, this guy really was giving the smoke out to all these years, and we need to put this guy in the Hall of Fame. And I truly think Terence Crawford will get voted in the Hall of Fame because of his fans. Errol Spence Jr. would definitely get voted in the Hall of Fame for his fans. So, you know, it was a great moment to see these guys get inducted to the Hall of Fame. Shout out to Floyd Mayweather being one of the greatest skilled fighters to ever live in the game. You know, no doubt that he will always be remembered for centuries and centuries. And, you know, he will really never be forgotten. And shout out to all the great ones that fought Floyd Mayweather and fought the other competition, the best competition. And they will be the ones that we will never forget their fights and stuff like that. So, with that being said, guys, Floyd Mayweather acknowledged that Terence Crawford doesn't need Errol Spence Jr. But in my opinion, he does. But if you want to look at accolades, he doesn't. But in my opinion, I feel like they both need each other because the diehard boxing fans and the casuals and all types of boxing fans is calling and waiting to see this fight to really see who is the man at the welterweight division. So, with that being said, guys, it is what it is. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. This is your boy King Jr. I'm out of here. Peace.